Welcome to Shallow. Join us as we explore the topics that are always on our minds, from beauty and wellness trends to balancing our careers and ambitions. These conversations fill our WhatsApp inboxes and social media feeds. We're diving into pop culture and asking the question, is it really that deep?
Today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for both of us, and it's skin conditions. While it's often brushed off as a shallow issue, the impact it has on mental health can be far deeper than most realise. We'll talk about our own experiences with conditions like acne and eczema, share the emotional toll they've taken, and explore the challenges of getting the right diagnosis and treatment. We'll also touch on the stigma around skin issues, the financial burden of treatments, and how finding a supportive community can make all the difference. We hope you enjoy this episode. So how have you been this week, Phoebes?
I've been good. Yeah, I've been really good. I actually have a good recommendation this week. A relevant recommendation, should I say. The Science of Beauty by Dr. Michelle Wong. Really good Bible of everything. Skin, hair, beauty. Everything is very entrenched in science, like this is how it works. It's really beautifully laid out. It's a lovely coffee table book. I would definitely recommend it for anyone who's interested in kind of learning about skin and hair function.
I'm a sucker for a beautiful looking book. I love the content as well, obviously, but aesthetics are everything.
So
as we
good.
know, skin, everything is aesthetics. I've got a really good suggestion as well. I think this is a book that I've had for quite a while. I think it was actually initially recommended by you like a couple of years ago when I was going through a few issues, and it's Caroline Hirron's Skincare, The Ultimate No-Nonsense Guide. And, you know, it's really good. She's very straight to the point. She's very like no bullshit. The way that the book's kind of laid out, it's, you know, it's age categories. You can kind of flick to your age group and it kind of gives you some kind of basic steps that you can take to kind of improve your skin health. Also some kind of just information about, you know, people at that age and what they might be suffering with, and as you get older, you can kind of flick through that and see what other kind of skin issues people might be facing. But there's a lot of crossover, obviously, and you know there's a lot to learn in that book. And yeah, she's a real good one for the skin tips.
She's great. I haven't picked that book up in a little while, but I really ate it up when she released it. And I think she's like, I've never obviously met her, but just purely through her blog and her book and, you know, now her app as well. Her content has really, really helped my skin. When we appreciate you for that, Caroline. Thank you. But yeah, let's get into it. I think the shallow take of a skin condition, and it's something we've come up against multiple times, is that it is seen less than, or it's seen as vain.
It's cosmetic.
It's how you look, but the reality is it is so much deeper than that, and the effect that it can have on your physical health but also your mental health can be huge. And we wanted to give it some airtime today, and we really wanted to get deep about it, so let's go.
I have always kind of suffered with various skin issues from a very young age. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, I was diagnosed with psoriasis on my scalp. And I'm not just talking like a little bit, like it was like all over my scalp, and I would have to have numerous hospital appointments where they would like, I remember this time where my dad took me for an appointment and he like lathered this like, I honestly like it, I've smelled it a couple of times in my life. It's like barbecue sauce. And they thickly, like they put that on my head thick, and you know you're 8 years old and you've got this like cap on and you've got this like thick like sauce on your head. And I remember like leaving the hospital with my dad and him looking at me, and I was like looking really sad.
Battered
and
you
he,
up
like,
like a
I just
chip.
have this like image of me in the car next to him, and he looked at me and was like, do you want to go to McDonald's?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. So like, yeah, I've suffered with things like that. Like, luckily for me, my psoriasis was only to my scalp, and it was only really, really bad when I was young. And I did eventually kind of grow out of it. I think during university, it dipped in and out of having it, but very lightly. And it's really interesting. I think when you've had something like that for so long, I still have kind of like the ghost. Like I can still feel where it would be on my head, like because you obviously get used to it being there for so many years, and like now I know where the flare up points would be if they were to come back. I'm very lucky that it hasn't, and I know people really suffer with psoriasis over their body, over their skin. One of my really close friends from university, she suffered with it on her face and her arms and her legs, and yeah, that's a real tough one to deal with psychologically as well. But psoriasis is not just what I've dealt with my entire life. I have suffered with acne. I think a lot of people, have suffered with acne in their life. And yeah, I had that from a very, early teenhood, up until present day, actually. It's dipped in and out of being bad or worse than. And, I'll go into it a little bit later in the episode of kind of statistics on acne and, how it does affect people. But yeah, it's something that I'm still kind of figuring out myself. And I'm like 27 years old. So it's one of those things that, is still prevalent in my late 20s.
With acne as well, I think there is this conception or preconception or misconception, actually, all the conceptions, that you will grow out of it. It's like an awkward teen phase and you'll be fine. You just have to muddle through this time. But the effect and the toll it takes on your mental health, especially as a teenager in that kind of awkward stage of your life, but also now that you kind of haven't grown out of it, like how's that left you feeling?
Well, yeah, I think that was one of the things, like when I'd initially as a teenager go to the doctors, my mum would like take me like, oh, I suffered with this when I was your age, it's just a way of life. I remember my mum being like, yeah, sorry, I've given you that. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Thanks, Mum.
Thanks, Mum. And yeah, I go to the doctors and they would be like, oh, it's just, teenage acne, like, take this topical cream and it'll go. Like, when I say that I had acne, I didn't have, it wasn't every corner of my face. Like, it wasn't the most extreme sense. So I think in a way, like, the doctors maybe wouldn't take it as seriously as somebody who is, really, really suffering with it in every patch of their skin. Sometimes you don't even get a patch that's clear. And like, it was still quite bad. I'd get it on my chest, on my back, on my neck, on my cheeks, my T-zone. And yeah, it would really knock my confidence for six, especially when you're a teenager and you're really self-conscious anyway about how you look and your hormones are changing, you're going through puberty, and then you've got this added effect of like, I've got bad skin. And then you look at one of your friends, my best friend, Erin, shout out Erin, she'll probably be fine with me saying that she had amazing skin. Like when we were kids and teenagers, I was like, I'd look at her flawless face every day. You kind of look at the people that kind of have what you don't, right? And that was really difficult. And being told, oh, it's fine, you'll probably grow out of it, it's fine. And then when you don't grow out of it, or you get put on the contraceptive pill for it, and then you come off the contraceptive pill and it flares back up again in your 20s, which I will go into, you're then left a bit like, well, for fuck's sake, what is it?
And I think one thing you said there was that, it could have been worse. Do you think that affected how seriously it was taken? The fact that it wasn't like DEFCON 1, but it was affecting you to enough of a degree to be knocking your self-confidence, making you feel bad, having an effect on your mental well-being. Did they say to you like, oh, this isn't really bad enough? Or was it just implied through other ways?
I mean, and this is something that has been asked to me every time I've gone to the doctors for this issue, which is, do you wash your face? Which for me is like, fuck off, for one. And that is a big trope that they say to young people and
You're
they
dirty.
say to teenagers, because they don't think that teenagers wash their face correctly and therefore leads to acne. And okay, that might be the case for some bacterial forms, and it might be the case for a little bit on their face. But majority of the time it is hormonal, and it is something to do with their hormones at the time. And it's not just going to be fixed by a topical cream that, for one, dries your face out, and two, doesn't actually fix the root cause of what is going on inside.
Definitely. I think from my perspective, eczema's always been the key thing I've struggled with. I did have eczema and acne as a teen, which was just a lovely combination. But I also have a lot of allergies. And I think one thing that really stood out to me is when this all reached fever pitch a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, it took having a really, really severe reaction for a GP to really, like, I remember I stumbled into her doctor's surgery by accident because my usual GP wasn't available. And she looked at me and was like, this isn't normal. This isn't right. We're getting you in for an emergency dermatology appointment. But up until that point, I'd been really struggling and no one had been taking it seriously. And I think for me, that was almost the biggest effect on my mental health alongside what I was going through. But that person telling me, it's just not that serious. You're just going to have to put on some steroid cream and get on with your life, rather than looking at internal measures, lifestyle measures, and having maybe a little bit more empathy. And we know the NHS is stacked. It's bursting at the seams. They are dealing with an awful lot. They have to prioritise worst case scenario. But I think when you look at the effect, the mental toll it takes all the way back from being a teen to now, for me, that hasn't got easier.
I mean, I think this is a good segue for me to talk about the fact that when I was 16, 17, the doctors put me on Dianet, which is a contraceptive pill, but it's supposed to be aimed and targeted at people with bad skin. And yeah, it did clear up my skin. I did have, better skin for it because of the contraceptive pill. But, we're going to go into this in a different episode about the contraceptive pill, because I think we've got a lot to talk about there. But, when I was in my mid-20s, 24, 25, I decided to come off it because for my own health, my own well-being, and my own hormone levels. And one of the side effects of that was my skin absolutely exploded to back to when I was like 14 years old. And, I'm a 24, 25-year-old woman, and I have, teenage acne again. And, it was completely correlated with the pill. After about a year of dealing with this, after thinking, this is something that my body's just getting out of its system. I've basically been stunting my hormones for so long. I'm kind of reverting back to when I was a teenager. I'll let it run its course. It'll get better. And I remember going to the doctors and them being like, oh, this is nothing to do with the pill. It would have come out of your system within 2 weeks, the pill. Like, this is something else. Like, this is just acne. And I'm like, well, I know my own body. And also, like, I've been waiting a year for this to clear up, and the only correlation is me stopping the pill. So it probably is the pill, isn't it? And, their instant cure for me was to go back on these topical treatments. And I was like, you know what, this has not helped me in the past. It's not going to help me now.
How was your experience with private healthcare? Because mine was probably less than optimal. It was a real mixed bag. Part of it was good, part of it was really quite negative. I think one thing that took me by surprise that I wasn't quite expecting is that you almost have to go doctor shopping. So you almost have to look online, look at their qualifications, look at their reviews, almost a bit of a Trustpilot situation, which felt a bit weird. I didn't have a personal recommendation from someone, so I had to kind of go in with who I thought was gonna be good for me. And I was really, really disappointed. There was minimal bedside manner, minimal empathy, and the only upside is that she sent me to a really good allergy specialist, and that's how we found out what allergies I was dealing with at that time, which wasn't the full picture, but it was part of the picture. So I have a bit of a mixed relationship with private health. I was fortunate enough to get that paid for through work. It was a work benefit that we had private healthcare through them. But I think for the main dermatologist appointments I had, if I had spent my own money on that, I would have been quite upset. How was your experience?
Well, yeah, I think it's like you said, like doctor shopping, and I did a lot of that. And I landed on a woman in Kensington. I can't remember her name, but she was really nice. Like, she was a nice person. But my first appointment cost £250, and that was every appointment, and they lasted 10 minutes. And I felt pretty down about it because I kind of gone in there wanting to be put on isotretinoin, which is commonly known as Roaccutane. And she kind of took, when you're spending £250, you're kind of expecting to, be given the good stuff because you've tried it. The thing is, like, to get to that point where I'm paying privately, it took a lot to get there. And that's £250 that I probably didn't have at the time. And, she took one look at me. She was saying, okay, we're going to create this skin care routine where you wash your face this way, you use these I think it was some sort of salicylic acid pads from Boots, and then here's some topical creams. And I was like, here we fucking go again with topical creams. And I said to her, and she was like, oh, I know you're probably coming in here because you want to be on Accutane. And I was like, yes. I do. I'm like 25 years old now. I've dealt with this for too long. Like, I need to be on it. I know the risks, which I will go into. Can you please help me? And I think she just had to do this like buffer appointment that still cost me a lot of money before she could then prescribe me the Accutane on the next one. And I was very fortunate that at that point, I was having the problem with my hair loss. I did go to the NHS. I did go to 3 private appointments, which cost me a lot of money. But this emergency dermatologist appointment that the NHS gave me the Accutane on the NHS for free, or whatever the prescription fee is. And then I was able to do that course that way. But it took a lot, and it did feel like the dermatology appointments with the NHS was more of a pill bank rather than an actual treatment centre where they actually want to get to the root cause of what's wrong with you.
I think we should touch on how common these skin conditions are, right? Because we're not sat here pretending to be one of one. I know for a fact, eczema, according to the National Eczema Society, atopic eczema is the most common form. There are other forms of eczema. It affects 1 in 5 children and 1 in 10 adults. And that's just purely in the UK. So those statistics are pretty high for eczema. How are they looking for acne?
So for acne on the NHS website, it says around 95% of people aged 11 to 30 are affected by acne to some extent. And in the UK alone, they're in the top 10 globally for acne. And I think that is crazy, considering how many countries there are in the world. And, UK is like coming up top. So that was a study undertaken by the British Association of Dermatologists that found out that acne rates among young people in the UK were among the highest globally.
That's quite telling, isn't it? I want to talk about the emotional toll because I think we've kind of touched on it already. We can tell that this is quite an inflammatory topic for both of us because it's affected us pretty deeply, I'd say, which is why we also want to talk about it. Emotionally, without turning this into a therapy session, like where did it take you? Like this whole situation, could you compartmentalize? Did it overtake your life? Like where does it leave you?
I think it had brought upon a lot of feelings of hopelessness. And I say that in the most like candid kind of way because, you can see as many doctors as possible. You can try as many treatments as possible. You can, buy into the whole skincare wellness, advertisements. And, there's always a new thing that's going to be helping acne. There's always going to be a new thing. Oh, this saved me. I'm recently seeing adverts at the moment for a company who's like, oh, this changed my acne in 8 days. I had acne for 10 to 15 years and now, I'm acne less and all that kind of stuff. It does, it has brought about bouts of depression, anxiety. Like, I think anxiety is one of the most prevalent feelings that I've had around this because, going from a teenager, you're feeling anxious about the way you look all the time. You're trying to meet new people, make new friends. And as you get in your 20s, you're like, oh, I've got to go to work. Okay, my skin's looking really bad today. The foundation's not going to stick on my face. How is that going to work? And you feel awful for the rest of the day because your foundation is not like staying on your skin correctly. And you're just feeling like you want to basically get in a hole and not see anybody. And, there is times where I've called in sick to work because I felt so self-conscious that I don't want to face people and I don't want to have to deal with feeling that way. And, it's one of those things as well, when you have an event or you have something on and you're feeling like, oh, fuck, I can't cover this, or I can't like make myself feel okay to go to these things. I don't want to be seen in public. And these are feelings that I've had. And I would say that I'm quite a confident person outside of my skin. Like I am a bubbly, lively, energetic. I'm an extrovert, I would say, for most of the part. And, having that barrier for pretty much my entire life has really affected me, yeah. And then, to go to doctor after doctor, to be given topical treatment after topical treatment, to be then given antibiotics for, something that is not bacterial. That's another thing to say. A lot of acne is labelled as a bacterial infection on your face. It's P. acnes that are causing, over sebum production and therefore causing acne on your face. And, these are temporarily fixed with topical treatments and antibiotics. But as soon as you stop taking those, it comes back. And that has always been the case with me. And, taking antibiotics is not to be taken lightly, I would be speaking to doctors and be like, oh, so should I be taking like a probiotic with this antibiotic I'm supposed to be taking for 3 months? And they're like, no, you're fine.
Super chill,
and I think you can probably chime in here because I think this is a trope that doctors have kind of told me and kind of told you, that, you know, diet and your kind of lifestyle don't really come into it. It's something else. It's something on your skin, or it's something that's not caused by that.
Yeah, I think I remember feeling, even as like, I don't know, late teens, thinking, could this be something I'm like imbibing, like putting in my body rather than putting on my face? And I think one thing I've learned throughout the process is that it is a mixture of the two for me. It's external factors and aggressors, and it's also some lifestyle stuff that massively can exacerbate my eczema and obviously allergies. But I think one thing that really did bother me is virtually every doctor I saw told me that what I ate and what I drank had nothing to do with my skin.
That's wild. And yeah, I mean, I'm saying that's wild, but I've been sat in that doctor's office and they've told me the exact same thing. And you're sat there like, are you sure? Because like, if I have a McDonald's, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And also, like, if I sat here and said, I'm not a doctor, maybe this affects you in other ways and then it has knock-on effects on the skin. But if I sat in that doctor's office and said I was eating a cheeseburger every day, I would probably think that they would say back, okay, well, that's probably not helping. So there were moments where it was really painful. And I think to go back to the emotional toll of it, like you said, the word hopelessness, and that's exactly how I felt. Like, this took over my life. I really didn't feel comfortable leaving my flat. I didn't socialize a lot. Every part of my life was impacted. And I remember, shout out to my old manager if she's listening. Probably not, but if I didn't have a workplace that was understanding of what was going on at the time, I would have struggled even more. Fortunately, they let me work from home. They let me attend my doctor's appointments. They were incredibly flexible and incredibly good about everything I had going on. But it's also a lot to turn around to your place of work who pays you for doing a job and saying, I'm struggling, this is affecting my life in every which way, and having someone turn around and be empathetic about that, because you're not always going to get that response. I think to move on to kind of like coping strategies, any kind of, I mean, we're also still going through it. I think now we've got to a stage of maybe management. Is there anything that has really helped you outside of maybe your Accutane, any kind of daily practices, any products maybe, like anything that you employ every day that you've learned that really helps your skin?
I think talking to a friend, I think talking to you in particular has been the most therapeutic way that I've been able to kind of emotionally deal with these situations. Love heart.
Love you.
Because I think when you with skin conditions, with health conditions, it can feel pretty lonely. It
Very
can feel like
isolating.
you're the only one going through this. And if you have friends around that are not dealing with acne, not dealing with skin conditions, and they're like, oh yeah, that must be really tough for you, I know they don't really kind of understand, and I don't want to kind of put that emotional burden of, I'm feeling really fucking shit right now, like this is, I don't want, like, they might not understand that I don't want to go to an event because of my skin. They might not understand that. And
it sounds like, when you've lived through it, you know it's not trivial, but if someone hasn't gone through it,
exactly,
you understand that it maybe sounds trivial to them.
And with all your kind of skin conditions, it was kind of, we'd have a back and forth of being like, yeah, I know this is shit, this is my experience. And, you know, just having that kind of clarity with doctors as well, like just being able to like talk to you about the fact I'm not alone in the way that the doctors treat you and the way that they kind of dismiss you and make it out like, you know, it's not as bad as it sounds, and like, you know, just have this topical treatment that'll dry your skin and make it worse. And you just kind of go around the ringer with it. And when someone is going through that with you, you can kind of be like, okay, let's talk about this. And it is a form of therapy.
Yeah, definitely. I think talking it through with you, because I mean, obviously so many of our experiences mirrored one another. I think, you know, obviously mine was kind of more eczema and allergies, yours was more acne and psoriasis, but we were, alopecia, we were going through such similar experiences by talking it out and chewing it through. Yes, while it wasn't necessarily making our skin better, it was making us feel less isolated and less alone. And I remember going into kind of my therapist's office, and I remember spending quite a few hours talking about how it was making me feel, because it really was affecting every part of my life, especially my social life. You don't want to go get cocktails with the gals when you're feeling awful.
Yeah, especially when you know that maybe those cocktails are going to make your skin worse.
Yeah.
And flicking back to when you were saying about your kind of work and the understanding of having a good workplace, like when I was going through the Accutane treatment, you know, there was a lot of blood tests involved. There was a lot of dermatology appointments. You know, they weren't exactly very helpful. I'd go in, they'd literally just sign my prescription and send me on my way.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had to take the time out to do those things. And I did have a really good boss at the time. And she could tell this was really affecting me. I had a few other issues going on as well. And it's so important to have people around you that understand and who are empathetic to situations like this. Because, okay, you could say it's cosmetic, but I think it's deeper than that. It's not cosmetic, it's emotional. It's going to affect how you perform at work. It's going to affect how you have friendships. It's going to affect relationships and your self-esteem and, you know, your confidence. And if you feel like you are an extroverted person and you need to scratch that itch by like socializing, but then you have this like added thing of lacking self-confidence, you know, that's really going to have a knock-on effect.
Definitely. And I think I'm not even going to ask the question if it's that deep. It is that deep. It's pretty evident that we feel that. I think it does seem to be that the biggest thing that helped you was element of community and making sure you had people around you who could support you and kind of empathize and understand and relate to what you were going through. Is there any, without creating a shopping list, because I know this process has cost us both an awful lot of money, is there any product that has specifically helped your situation at all? Or not necessarily products, any lifestyle changes, anything you've kind of employed?
Yeah, so I think on the lifestyle changes front, the thing that helps my skin the most, which has always helped my skin, is Miss Sun. She helps me. I know I should not be promoting going in the sun and sunbathing, but I kid you not, when I was younger, if we were going on a family holiday, I could guarantee you that my mood would be instantly up because I knew that my skin would clear up because I'd be in the sun and it would help me that way. You know, being here in Australia, I'm accessing the sun. Honestly, it's the thing that cures, you know, both my skin and my hair loss issue. And yeah, I think that paired with, you know, maybe a minimal skincare routine, which Phoebe is helping me with at the moment, because I think because I'm so exasperated with having skin problems, I kind of am like, I'll try anything and everything all at once. And I'm kind of like, oh, which one is it? And I kind of forget to come back to the basics. And yeah, you're really helping me with that. And, you know, I'm trying a new oil at the moment. What is it?
It's another Caroline Hirons. It's called the Support Oil from Skin Rocks, and your skin has loved it. It's really, really helped you. I'm obsessed with it. It's been great for my skin, but I think we've put it on you twice now, and I think every time when you've woken up the next day, your skin, glowing. It's looked so much calmer.
Yeah, and I think as well, retinol. I have, you know, Accutane is the purest form of retinol. It's the purest form of vitamin A. So, you know, retinol helps me. It clears it up. It makes it calmer. It improves my complexion. I think, you know, that is probably something I will use forever because it is just one of those things that helps with anti-aging as well. Wrinkles, fine lines, hyperpigmentation, and also if you've got a bit of a flare-up.
Definitely. And I think also SPF. I know it's boring.
We can't talk about the sun without SPF.
We can't. The sun police over here. But it took me a really long time to figure out, actually, my eczema really hates SPF. And it took me quite a while to find one that now really agrees and actually does improve the way my skin looks as well. And obviously living in Australia, there's a heightened importance of wearing it every day as well. So I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this. So I think we should do a kind of product lifestyle changes episode as well. So that will be inbound very soon. But I think this has been really, really good. I've really enjoyed discussing this with you.
It definitely feels like our voice notes
yes.
on WhatsApp. You know, these are conversations that me and Phoebe have like endlessly thrown at each other every day almost. So it's really nice to just kind of like chew that over in a more kind of like sit down specific session.
It can feel really overwhelming. I think even talking about it almost brings those emotions back up to the surface again. But I think if you are struggling with skin conditions or anything similar to what we've spoken about today, I think if there's one takeaway I would leave you with is it probably feels incredibly overwhelming and that you just want to bury your head in the sand or under the duvet, but just keep going into those doctor's offices, keep hassling your GP, go get a second opinion. If it's bothering you and it's impacting your life, this is important and you should be treated as such. now it's time for...
And what a pile of bollocks!
It's that part of the show where we just chat shit about something insignificant that just fucks us off. We know the shows can get a little deep every now and again, so it's a nice way for us to end it. Lucy, what have you got for us today?
Oh, and this one really fucks me off because I feel like something needs to be done about it. Something needs to be done about it. We can't carry on like this, and it's the Victoria line. It's very London specific. If you've ever been on a tube in London and you've been on the Victoria line, if you've gone to Euston Station, King's Cross, whatever, the Victoria line is like from Satan's armpit himself. Like, I swear to God, some evil overlord is pumping hot air into that train because every time I get onto it, I feel like I'm about to melt into a puddle on the floor.
It is Satan's arsehole. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, it is the heat of Satan's arsehole. That being said...
Here she goes defending the Victoria line every time. So rude.
She will get you where you need to go. And the thing is with the Vicky is that it cuts London down the middle, has all the key stops that you want, and you will get there really quick. I think what your issue is that she's a West London girly. She lives on the luxurious district line.
Yeah, aircon, spacious.
It's
capacious.
Always
a lot of seats.
It's aircon. You generally always get a seat. You're winning in so many senses, but she breaks down frequently.
Yeah, but I'd rather just stay in West London then, because, you know, imagine going on a date and you get onto the Victoria line and you're 2 stops ahead, you're looking all good, you've blow dried your hair, you're feeling smooth, you're feeling great. You get off the line and you just literally look dripping like the fucking Grudge. Like, it's just smooth. It's not a cute look. You're not going on that date. You're going to get straight back on that tube line and go home because you look like shit. Thanks so much for listening to Shallow. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It makes a really huge difference in helping others discover the podcast. We always want to hear from you, so feel free to slide into our DMs, send us a bell, or follow us on Instagram at shallowpod, or send us an email at shallow@boxedoff.net. Shallow is a Boxed Off production, written and hosted by Lucy Bell and Phoebe Whittle. We'll see you next time.